I do a lot of projects that require thin pieces of wood. That's probably because of trying to conserve the lumber I'm using. Well, it doesn't matter if those are thin pieces like these 1/16 of inch pieces that I probably use in some sort of jewelry, or bigger pieces like these, which are 1/2 by 3/4, that might be used, say, in making a trellis, something like that. I need a bunch of them and I need them the same. Now, trying to cut those pieces with the wood that's being cut off between the blade and the fence when it's that thin is dangerous. A couple things can happen. One is that the wood can go down in by the blade and get jammed in there, or just destroyed. So the answer to that is cut it on the outside of the blade. So what I would do, instead of cutting it in here, I would put my block here, and what I want is the offcut over here. Okay, it works. But the problem here is consistency. Okay, I've got one, but how do I get another one the same size? Well, that's where the saw and area thin rip gauge comes in. And what this does is allows me to repeatedly set up cuts like that so I can get those nice narrow cuts, and they'll all be the same size. Okay, now this can be used on the left side of the saw blade or on the right side of the saw blade. I'm going to be using it on the right side of the saw blade, and the reason for that is because my miter track on the left side is a long ways away from my saw blade. Now, I know a lot of us are used to keeping the saw or the fence on the left side of the saw. But I'm actually doing it the other way around here, and there's nothing wrong with that. People who are left-handed actually do that normally. So I can take my block of wood, same block of wood I just used, and set it up here so that I'm getting a really narrow cut like that one I just made. Now I'm going to bring my fence up to that point. Okay, lock it down. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my jig and I'm going to put it in place, and it needs to be forward of the blade because we don't want to cause a binding situation, and bring the bearing all the way over to be in contact with the wood. Now, this isn't going to cause binding that would create kickback because the gauge here is before the blade, okay? Got to make sure we keep it before the blade. So then after I make my cut, it's really easy to make the second cut, and I'll show you here. Okay, with that cut made, I'm going to put my block back here, and I'm going to move the saw fence over so that my block of wood is again touching the gauge. That is going to give me another cut that's this exact same thickness. Let's make sure I'm right. So there we go, we've got another cut. Now it really doesn't even matter if I change wood. Put another block of wood in here, I'll get the same results. Because we're not gauging off the fence, we're actually gauging off the wood. So I bring this piece of wood right up to the gauge. And again, I've got a consistent product. I'm cutting the wood the same thickness because it's all based off the gauge and the blade, and I'm moving the fence to make that possible. All right, so those are really narrow strips. What if I wanted something, say, a little wider, like I want some 3/4 by 3/4 inch pieces, which are really useful in finished carpentry, okay? Well, that's not hard to do either. I can set my, okay, so I'll find out where my 0 point is here. Right there. And now, using the scale that's right on the gauge, I can move that over 3/4 of an inch. And I should end up with a piece that's 3/4 of an inch wide. There we have a piece that's 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch. The great thing about it is I can make it consistent and I can do it safely. I don't have to worry about getting my wood trapped between the blade and the fence.